Hey everyone. So I have done a few videos myself, just kind of talking about things really with a focus more towards um, being a mom with a child with autism, an adult child with autism, and, being involved with animal rescue and just all the crazy weird things that kind of flit through my head, as well as my own personal fascination and admiration for those who are fighting Scientology. Well, I've always had a fascination with cults, particularly Scientology. Um, I remember back in the 80s with the Dianetics commercials with, the volcano and all of that. And I was very fascinated by it. Um, I heard people say it was a cult, but I grew up attending a very small non-denominational church with strong Baptist and Pentecostal leanings. Um, we believed in speaking in tongues and faith healing, and I had a very traditional, somewhat strict Christian upbringing. And we lived in a very small town, and some of those people called our church a cult, which we weren't. Um, Sorry, I'm nervous. We weren't a cult, but that planted that in my head. And there are some things when I consider it now as an adult. There was a lot of programming, not that I believe it was intended for bad, and my very structured and controlled upbringing kept me from a lot of harm, a lot of things that would have been bad. So I appreciate that. Um, I think I had a good childhood. But as an adult, I am unpacking some things now, going through my own emotions and head and trying to figure out how that all plays out. Um, I have been very taken in with the Scientology um, videos, the whole thing that is happening on YouTube with these people that are not only exposing all of the crimes and secrets involved with Scientology, but they're going out and making a stand and making a difference. Um, I mean, people that weren't even involved with Scientology, and they're out there on the streets doing, audits and things. And I have so much respect for these basically kids. I mean, the bulk of the people that are out doing this day after day after day, like in Hollywood, they're young. They're like in their 20s, some are older. And there are some that are young kids, but they're out there, they're streaming live, they're learning their um, rights. And I want to give a huge shout out to William Good of Audit. Let me double check his Audit Scientology, his Streets LA. If you search Streets LA, you'll find him. And he's older than a lot of the other people that are doing this. And he's really teaching them what you're allowed to do and not allowed to do when you're protesting or exposing the hidden side, crime or anything like that. His big thing is exposing the LA Police Department with how, their corruption, especially with their ties with Scientology or just corruption in general. I mean, he didn't start looking at Scientology at all. But if you follow his page, that'll take you to a lot of the other people that are also doing this. Chris Without a Hellcat is one. Jessica. Palmentary, I think, is one. There's a DOA. Anyway, and then there's a couple of YouTube streamers. Aaron from Growing Up in Scientology has been very much in the forefront of connecting past people who were in Scientology, telling their stories. This second generation and third generation individuals who are coming out are really, they're telling just the most horrific stories, and I have so much admiration with them. So what does that have to do with me? So, golly, it's been like 7 or 8 years ago now. We adopted a dog who promptly got away from us, and she ran for 5 days. And we learned all this stuff about her after it happened. After she escaped, we learned that she had been brought in from Puerto Rico the day before the adoption event. She had not had any downtime or anything. Long story for a different time. But as a consequence of that, I was connected with a local animal rescuer who was known to be very good at catching animals, loose animals, and working with feral and fearful dogs. So through a chain of events, I was connected with Melissa from the Devoted Barn. Melissa came up. She gave me some suggestions. She offered to take our dog in if it turned out, when she was caught, if it turned out she was feral, so that I could come work with her there and learn how to take care of her. And thankfully, after 5 days and a very long, convoluted story, she was caught. She's a great dog. She's a wonderful dog. We've had her now all these years. So as part of our thank you for our family for that, she was based in another town here in Michigan. And so that fall, I made plans for us to go down, and we did a blanket drive. We collected supplies that they might need. We went out and bought a whole bunch of stuff, dog food and, potty pads and all the things an animal rescue needs. And we went down to their location in Frenchtown Township or Monroe area. And it spoke to my heart. It was everything I would have wanted if I had created an animal rescue myself. I've always had a very deep, compassionate heart for animals. I grew up riding horses, and I have a lot of emotion wrapped around horses with a particular cousin who passed away when she was 40. And so we go down there and we go into this barn, and there's horses and there's pigs and goats and dogs of all shapes and sizes and conditions. I mean, there was a dog with mega esophagus that would eat, they have to sit eating up in a chair. I'd never seen a dog in a high chair before. And everything about it, the smell of being in the barn, the dogs, what she was doing, it spoke to my heart. And while we were visiting, a group of special needs adults came in. She worked with Goodwill Industries, and there was one of their local programs that brought their adults with their individuals with a disability. They would come, I think, weekly in, and they would, do things around the property, but mostly it's just spending time. They might brush a horse or feed the dogs or, do all kinds of different things. So it was good for the animals, and it was, definitely good for the outreach. And in fact, the program received a national award, and that was all going on. The national award, when Melissa got the phone call to come help look for our dog, she was actually at that time shopping for her dress for the awards ceremony to get her award in New York City or New York area. I'm not sure exactly where, off the top of my head. Doesn't matter. So I was blown away. And so then they were doing some fundraising things. And so I made some of my Michigan Humane Society had also helped. They're actually kind of how I got to Melissa. So I redo train cases, vintage train cases, and cover them up, redo them, all often with a theme. So I made one for the Michigan Humane Society to use in one of their fundraising auctions, and I made one for the Devoted Barn. And as a thank you for helping me. And as a family, we believe in helping. So, this is just right up my alley. I enlisted to become a volunteer with my son, and I thought at first we would go down every couple of weeks and go work with the dogs or do different things. At that time, Melissa was doing a lot of live streaming. She was starting to do a lot more of it. And so I would wait and I would I would watch her Facebook videos while I was on the treadmill, or, I would save them up and watch them. And I was watching how she worked with feral dogs, getting them used to touch. She did a lot of explanation behind it. It was just so cool, just so cool. And then, I volunteered, but I wasn't there a lot. I was part of the group, but not really. Just because I lived, it was a good hour and a half, hour 15, hour 20 minutes or so to get there from where I live. And I'm sorry, you guys, my hair is making me nuts. I've got to quit touching it. So now I've lost my train of thought. I just need to not look at myself and then I'll do better. Anyway, I'm very wordy, I can't tell the whole story at once, so I shouldn't even try. I became involved. And then through a series of things, they purchased a property up near me, only about 20 minutes away. And the whole kit and caboodle moved up by me. And now they were on a 54-acre equine property that had, lots of stalls, indoor arena, 2 of them actually, all kinds of property, lots of paddocks and fields for, the fencing and everything could be added for the other animals. And there was a riding program on the property, and it was just all so cool. And that's when I really became more involved. When they were still down in the Newport, Monroe area, we started fostering. The first dog I fostered was Willow. She was and she deserves her own story. She was a small little husky who was pregnant when she came to the rescue. She'd been bred to her brother. She was never handled. She was terrified of touch. She had hydrocephalus. She was almost blind. Anyway, long story, she was my first foster, and she changed my world. I learned so much from that dog. And since then, we've fostered a lot of animals through the Devoted Barn. We've had many dogs, ducks, chickens. We've fostered geese. It enriched my life. And when she moved up here, one of the things that Melissa did was she took in primarily puppies who were born with special needs, cleft lips, cleft palates, anything that they couldn't nurse on mom, where they needed to be tube fed. She would do that. And right after she moved up here, she brought in a puppy, and with Shirley May was her name. She's now Her nickname is Monkey, and that's pretty much what she gets called all the time. A lot of people forget she has a real name. Um, and she was very fragile. She had clefts. She actually has quite a few medical conditions, and she couldn't be left alone. So there was a series of us aunties who would come in and um, keep an eye on her, take care of her, make sure she got fed every couple of hours. She had to be fed through a tube. Actually, she ended up with a port in her neck. And then another puppy came along, Doodle. And and I'm watching this and I'm realizing I can do that. Learned how to tube feed my son when Tyler, who was born at 24 weeks gestation. And I had to learn how to tube feed him for him to be able to come home from the NICU. And so I'm watching her with these puppies, and I'm like, because of some physical conditions I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. A lot of the hard physical stuff I can't do, or I can do it, but I won't be able to move for 2 weeks afterwards. My body just won't take that kind of abuse anymore. And, so I was looking for a way I could help. And I'm like, I can do this. I can do this. So that's when I started with the puppies. And it filled something in me. And so I was out there more, and then I was out there more. And pretty soon I'm part of the quote unquote, more of an inner circle. COVID hit. So, the world was shut down. What do we do? People still needed to come out there and take care of the animals and do all the things. And, the animals still had to be fed. And so there was a small group of us who lived close or worked, and we were COVID buddies. And frankly, it was great. It was fun. We played euchre. We solved the troubles of the world. I mean, it was good. And as I came to know Melissa a lot more, there were things I would see that I don't agree with that, and I didn't agree with a lot of Melissa's decisions, opinions, things that she was doing with the rescue. But it wasn't my rescue. If I don't agree, my personal philosophy is, if I don't have a solution, I'm not going to complain about something. Either you're part of the solution or you're not. And if I'm not willing to step up and do it, I need to shut up. So, there were things, or, and I brought up a lot to Mel. I like to think I was pretty frank with her, and we had to agree to disagree quite a bit about things. And I kept seeing more things, but then, I would ask questions, and her explanations were always so good and so plausible. And I wanted to believe. And then people started leaving and not volunteering anymore. And they were saying things like, it's a cult of personality. The animals aren't being taken care of properly. They're not, they're not being vetted properly. They're not being adapted out the way they should be, or and for some of it, but again, there was always an explanation, always something plausible. And I became the head of her fundraising team, and I ended up being the head of the neonate team. And we had an awesome team that was doing that. I reached out to a bunch of places. We got some incubators donated, and then we raised funds. We had some amazing donations from particularly the Berger-Piccard community. We took in one of a dog, a Berger-Piccard, born with a very significant cleft lip, cleft palate. She has some vision issues, some hydrocephalus. And we took her, and Ruthie is actually my dog now. She came and never left. She just stole our heart. And the community of people behind that breed that has wrapped their arms around us and followed her, they're remarkable. It's an unusual breed. I had never heard of it before. I had to look it up. And I'm so thankful for these people in my life. I'm so thankful. They're amazing. Anyway, I digress again. So during COVID, my family, like everybody else, we watched Joe Exotic, and we became sucked into this whole narrative of all this craziness and the animals. And you watch it and you think, how does anyone get sucked into that? I mean, Joe's a weird man. And I'm not saying that Mel is like Joe at all, because she's not. But it's that same cult of personality. And over the years, year and a half ago, I resigned as fundraising chairperson and resigned from being the neonate coordinator because of things I wasn't happy with. I wasn't liking what I was seeing. I'm a fixer. I'm a doer. So if I see something that needs to be fixed and I can't fix it, I become very frustrated. And over and over, I was seeing that. If there were financial troubles or whatever, and I'm like, do this, do this, do this. And Mel was doing different things. Well, again, it was her rescue, not mine. So either I accept that and we move on, or I leave. So at that time, I stepped back. But I knew a lot of personal things and going on in Mel's life. And I was very much still considered her a friend outside of the rescue. And I care about her kids, and everything just was entangled and intertwined, and yet things kept happening. Well, then there was an eviction from the property. I'm not going to get into all of it. Those are lives for a different day with, where I can show receipts. I have to figure out how to do that first. But long story short, she was evicted from several places. There's always stories, always reasons, always. And she ended up moving the livestock to a location that was completely inappropriate for them. And I texted her, and she did it like secretly. She moved them all. And I texted her at that point and I said, I don't support what you're doing. I think this is really wrong. The animals do not belong there, blah, 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 blah. And that was basically pretty much the end of our friendship. I still cared a lot. And I genuinely loved Melissa. But I was also seeing so many mental health issues and just other signs. And very long story short, I'm sorry, I know I'm botching all of this, and I really wish I had something to drink. Lesson learned there. But a bunch of the animals have been seized. They've had to euthanize some of them. The reports are coming out, and they're horrifying, just horrifying. The livestock did not belong where she put them. And a Facebook group started some time ago. Some former volunteers and other people. And their mission originally was to expose what was going on at the Devoted Barn. And it grew, and like it does when you get any big group of people together, some of the people were really nasty and vicious. Some were there for the spectacle, but not providing, proof, or not even, they've never been on the property. How do they know what they're saying? And there was a lot of truth, but there was also lies. or misrepresentations. And so I wouldn't go to it because I'm very much becoming very careful about what energy I'm allowing into my world. We've cut off. I don't watch news anymore. I don't watch things that bum me out. I'm becoming very careful about protecting um, my energy and what I'm allowing in. And it's not that I'm burying my head in the sand. I have very strong opinions about what's going on in the world and politics or this and this and that, but I can't affect any of those things. I can only affect change in my own little bubble. So that's what I'm working really hard to concentrate on. And unfortunately, the more I've learned and keep learning every day are new revelations. And for quite a while, some of those people were saying it's a cult, we're drinking the Kool-Aid. We made a joke about it. And I have to say they were right. I did drink the Kool-Aid. I was wrong. I was very wrong. And now I'm looking at it and I'm just like, what was I involved in? What about her? What about this was strong enough that I bought into it, hook, line, and sinker? I have a lot of exploring to do. That's a whole lot to unpack. What my triggers were, it's a lot to unpack. And frankly, this is going to blow up big. There's a lot of other things going on, things that I may get called in on innocently, but I know I'll be deposed. And, when they file criminal charges against people for things, they put everybody they can up front and then they dismiss as they go. I don't know. It's a real concern. At the end of the day, I'm great. But then in the back of my head, I'm thinking, okay, now what? And I keep mentally going back to Joe Exotic and watching that, and then watching the updates and seeing how truly cult-like it became for me. And I'm just I'm overwhelmed, you guys. I'm overwhelmed. I'm scared. I'm worried about the animals. It's just a lot to take in. And I go back to the Scientology people that I follow. And so many people, you'll see that, they'll come on and they'll be talking about their stories. And people will be like, how could you fall for that? How can you blah, 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 blah. I get it now. And I'm so sorry. I don't victim shame. I don't do that. But I've also kind of been arrogant, thinking I could never fall for that. I have a really good sense about people, and I wouldn't fall for that. Well, I did. I fell for it. Hook, line, and sinker. This is going to be a hard year as all of this keeps coming out and exposed. And I'm going to learn all the things I was lied to about or misled or only given half truths. The things that I keep learning, I'm horrified by. And I think for my own self, I do need to talk about it and share and tell my story, hopefully not in a Joe Exotic kind of way. so many good things came from my time volunteering there. I don't know how to share things yet. You can search it. You're going to come up with all kinds of news stories about the animal seizure. She had a cow that got loose, or a steer. It was a male castrated cow, bull. And anyway, I can't even think. I'm so tongue twisted and tied up inside. Anyway, Lester got loose and he was running down the highway. And there's video of a cowboy she hired to catching him along I-75. And there's a big convoluted story behind how he even got lost. And I'm just questioning everything, you guys. I'm questioning my own internal BS meters. My what made me believe? What made me want to believe so badly? This is distracting me. So, you guys, I'm under my stairs. This was a storage space. I've used this place to work. I've had foster kittens in here, all kinds of different things. And it's just a nice, quiet little space for me to do this. This is, I think I'm going to make this space a little bit of a meditative, my little streaming spot. Just kind of my little place. And or not, we'll see. But anyway, I'm sure I've rambled on. I've confused everybody. I'm very sorry. Thank you for watching. If you do watch, please hit like, subscribe, whatever. I just don't know how I was so taken in, you guys. I don't get it. So that's enough for today. I'm going to have to keep unpacking this as I can and hopefully figure out how to do screen shares and all of that so I can tell the story. And it's quite a story. Not quite Joe Exotic convoluted, but kinda. Yeah, it's a hot mess. So anyway, you guys, have a great day. Have a great weekend. And I will catch you another time. Thank you so much for watching.